Last week we saw that both Kingpin and Daredevil have been born again.
Say that again?
And with this week's double episode run, stuff is beginning to kick off, so let's talk about it. Now there will be spoilers ahead, so come back after you have watched it.
Exactly what kind of a lawyer are you? A really good one.
Episode 5 shows us the return of Yusuf Khan, aka Kamala Khan's dad, perhaps hinting at a potential team up between the two later down the line. We see Matt go to the bank to ask for a loan for his firm, but it gets rejected, and not too long after, the bank gets hijacked by a bunch of Irish robbers on St. Patrick's Day. And Matt steps in to fight them whilst also trying to figure out what they're planning to steal, since the bank doesn't have any physical cash there because it's instead a safety deposit. It turns out that these robbers are after this mysterious diamond of sort and have held the bank hostage because someone was ordering them to. My guess is that it's most likely Vanessa. I do think Kingpin still has some good in him since he is the mayor, but we shall see. Matt then does the classic hero move and helps the cops free the hostages whilst also beating up the criminals, and the episode ends with us seeing that Yusuf has managed to get his hands on the diamond that they were trying to steal. Now I'll be completely honest when I say this episode felt so random and out of place. It somehow felt like a filler episode in the MCU, which is something that's never happened before, except maybe in She-Hulk. And usually the writing in the show is really well done, but this one felt a bit rushed and just kind of felt like an episode that they were trying to set things up, but then it just landed flat on his face. Now personally, if this episode was just a Marvel special presentation that they released before the show, I would have been excited. But since this is an actual episode in the show and it just kind of comes in the middle of the main story, it is a huge disappointment, and it just seems to be setting something up with the Diamond and Kamala. And for someone who's a huge fan of watching movies about a place being hijacked purely because it's thrilling, this was kind of a disappointment. However, I do feel like Daredevil is one of the very few heroes that this story can work for, just because he has a secret identity. And this episode did feel like the weakest of the show so far, just because it doesn't seem to connect to the main story so far, at least. So this episode gets a 6 out of 10, but this is subject to change provided something insane happens in the coming episodes.
Okay.
In this episode, we see that Hector Ayala's niece is super pissed that Matt won't investigate further on the thing that Hector was working on, so Angela plans to do it herself. Meanwhile, Kingpin is getting grilled by investors, I think, and we see the return of the Pookie, Jack Duquesne, from the very successful Hawkeye show. We then see Kingpin learn that the Muse painting isn't painted from paint, but instead from the blood of the victims. Literally, from the blood of the victims. And he approximately has killed about 60 people, maybe more, which is crazy, and Kingpin hires a task force to hunt him down whilst also being an anti-vigilante team. Matt then learns from Cherry about Muse and his murders, and we see Angela go after him, but she gets captured by the Muse, leading to Matt to finally suit up once again and fight the Muse. Kingpin also fights Adam with a hatchet, but completely destroys him. And kills him, so it seems. Matt then saves Angela and the episode ends. This episode was a lot better than the one before, and it made sense why they released both at the same time, because both episodes did seem quite weak in comparison to the other episodes, so combining the two, then fans won't be disappointed as such. But the fight choreography was really good, and the moment when he suits up was so cold, and I was excited watching that, so it did its job. The Muse also seems like such a big threat, and he has been defeated this episode, but I do have a feeling he will come back. The anti-vigilante task force also seems to be filled with the biggest douches from the NYPD, and this will lead to Matt getting a rematch against the cops, and I'm very excited. Though I do think Fisk won't throw his fist this season, but it will end with him getting kicked out of office and him being super pissed at Matt. But overall, this episode gets a 7 out of 10. Subscribe and comment below your thoughts.